1.19 appears to be in the final phases of development, meaning that Mojang is now working on polishing features and bug fixing, so now is the most important time to find and report as many bugs as we possibly can. In today's video, I'll be showing you 19 must-fix issues in the 1.19 Wild update. These bugs have to do with the Warden, Deep Dark, Ancient Cities, and of course the Mangrove Swamps as well. If there's an issue in the update, it's probably going to be in today's video, so let's just hop into it. Probably the dumbest bug you'll see today is the fact that the Warden will just continuously attack experience orbs. You should save the best for last, but you know what? This one's really dumb, and I just wanted to show it to you first. So if you feel like it, as of right now, you can completely distract the Warden using some bottles of enchanting, which I think you can actually find in these cities even. They also do the range attacks against the XP orbs as well, so sometimes you'll just see them go flying. It's kinda the best. There was also a bug where the Wardens would attack each other, so that was kind of cool. There's territorial disputes between the two Wardens. It does appear to be fixed now, but it would have been really funny if it stayed in the game. There's a fairly big issue with the redstone in the secret room underneath the ancient city, like, portal right here, and that has to do with this little redstone clock on the inside that is supposed to open these doors and give you access to this room. So if we place down a block and activate that Skulk sensor, you can see the redstone just constantly flashes where it should be on, and that prevents your doors from actually opening. If you do get the doors to open, then they basically just flash like this, and that's not very conducive to actually getting in here. So the redstone needs to be tweaked ever so slightly for Bedrock Edition. This is basically copy-pasted from Java. It's exactly the same as over there, and I think all they need to do is make it so that the input to the comparator clock is a little bit longer. So if you can get a repeater in here somewhere on like 2 ticks, that would probably fix it. Maybe 3. I don't know. Anyway, this just needs to stay on a little bit longer so that those doors actually open and they don't flash as much. Building off of the previous bug, there is an issue where dungeons can spawn inside of the redstone room in the ancient cities, and I'm not sure if this redstone is supposed to be this broken, but it also just is. I think the dungeon overwrit the part of it that's supposed to be not broken. Oh, look at this. The redstone's actually on top of part of the dungeon wall. That's very strange. World generation, am I right? Anyway, this is slightly broken. The main Skulk sensors at the center point of the city above the redstone lamps do not have any water generating inside of them. Typically, these would have water in them, and that silences them. So it just kind of looks like all these lights turn on as you're walking up, and you don't hear these Skulk sensors. And this stems from a bigger bug where you can't even waterlog these Skulk sensors. So, like, we can place down, you know, a water bucket on top of it, and then if you try and place down a Skulk sensor in the water, it just deletes it. So these things should be waterloggable. They're waterloggable on Java Edition. Another small nitpick with the Ancient City generation, there are skeleton skulls, and as you can see, the actual, like, hitbox of the skeleton skull is a standard square, as if it were sitting on the floor like this, but the actual skeleton skull is, like, to its side, kind of like it's that. And that's just a small thing. That's probably from copy-pasting the structure from Java Edition into Bedrock. Small little errors like that pop up all the time when copy-pasting. There's a small bug with these Skulk veins where they can be placed on the sides or top of these Skulk sensors. This doesn't happen with like trapdoors or slabs or anything, which is intended, and you shouldn't be able to place it on these Skulk sensors at all. But this is kind of important because in the world generation, you can see that the Skulk veins get generated on these sensors. And in certain situations, it can completely hide that there's a sensor there at all. Like there's actually one right in here, and you would never notice it. There's even a couple of them. So this is a somewhat mild bug on the surface, but it could affect gameplay because there might be some of these sensors hidden around, and you don't really have a good opportunity to notice them when they're covered in veins from world generation. I'm pretty sure the veins from the Skulk catalyst can also cover up these things as well. That would make sense. Not to mention that Skulk veins can actually generate mid-air. This might be just because of the geode, but you know what? It's still a floaty vein. There's a fairly big issue with these Skulk shriekers. Whenever they activate and they have this little animation, you cannot see it from the back or the sides or from below. You have to be basically facing it straight on to see that animation. As you can see, if we're on this side of it, it's just completely invisible. It's still very loud though, and this goes for being below it as well. As you can see, if we're below it, you can't see that animation at all. So this should be basically visible 360, otherwise you'll have no idea what Skulk Shrieker is actually going off and causing issues, especially in the deep dark where there's a lot of side areas, caves, cliffs, and caverns. You will have a very hard time knowing which one of these is actually activating if this bug is not fixed. This one right here is a prime example of a Shrieker being way above the player, and you would never know that one's actually going off without seeing the animation. So maybe a little tweak that could be done besides making the animation visible is like making it light up on the sides. These little black pixels right here could be a perfect little thing to light up when it activates. Could be kind of cool. There's also a small issue with mobs spawning in the deep dark when they shouldn't. So the deep dark is supposed to be basically like a mushroom biome where nothing spawns. It's absolutely dead except for you and the Warden. However, as you see, if there's like a mine shaft going through the area or something, then hostile mobs will definitely spawn in here, and that is definitely going to upset the Warden and probably you, because, well, you don't want these guys summoning a Warden for you. That's your job. You can also get slimes spawning in the ancient cities as well, so that is another thing that needs to be taken a look at, because slime chunks are everywhere in the world. I would like to mention that I've only seen the hostile mobs spawning inside of the ancient cities when there is a mine shaft going through the city, so there may be some correlation there. Quick side note for some Minecraft lore, you can see the different eras that these different structures were built in. So the ancient city came first, and then the mine shaft was built on top of that, and then the pillagers found the ancient city and built through the mine shaft. Kind of interesting. And yeah, now you can see that there's like a lot of mobs in here, like way more than there was a second ago. This is definitely going to be upsetting to the residents of the ancient city. You could argue that the mine shafts should not generate through the ancient cities either, and I would kind of agree with you. It doesn't make sense from a lore standpoint. It's very silly, and it kind of just creates a massive amount of chaos where there otherwise shouldn't be. But at the same time, it is kind of cool to see the two structures collide. There is a potential issue with the ancient cities being a little bit too common. Before we had spectator mode, they were very difficult and hard to find. However, now that we have spectator mode, you can see that there's actually quite a few double cities. Like this one is about 50 blocks away from another city, and that is maybe a little bit too common. I'm not sure what is a good rarity for these, but you definitely don't want to be stumbling upon them every 10 seconds that you walk underground. They should be a somewhat rare occurrence, maybe like 2 or 3 times as common as a stronghold or something. They were definitely far more plentiful in the previous betas. Like you would literally stumble over these every 100 blocks that you went underground. But as of right now, they are fairly common, and that might be a little bit too dangerous. The deep dark biome itself also appears to be very common below Y0, which makes the entirety of the bottom of the world very dangerous, because a lot of this deep dark biome actually does have Skulk Shriekers and Catalysts and that kind of stuff. However, I feel like that's kind of a good game balance, but the ancient cities being too common, I think is probably an issue that should be worked on. Moving on to something a little bit more green, the leaves from the mangrove trees have a classic Bedrock Edition bug. They do not stack together properly with one another. So if we break some of these with Silk Touch or Silk Touch Shears or a Silk Touch pickaxe or really anything, you'll notice that immediately we have several stacks of these that just do not stack together. So if I try and stack these, as you can see, they just do not work, and we have 3 different varieties right here. Even if you place them on the ground and mine them all with the same tools, they just do not work. And now we have 4 different varieties that do not stack together. This is a pretty classic Bedrock Edition bug. It's been around with leaves multiple times before. It's been around with furnace items and stone and stuff like that. So I think they probably have a reasonable quick fix for it, but, you know, it's just cool to see it around again. It was removed like a year or 2 ago, and now it's back, baby. As you may know, in the recent updates, they've made it so that lanterns and basically everything can be placed on trapdoors in any position, as you can see here, which is a fantastic update. However, they did miss one item. You cannot place pickles on top of a trapdoor, which you can on Java Edition. This would be really nice, just gives you more decoration opportunities. And also on Java Edition, you can place like tripwires and levers and torches on the sides of doors, but you cannot do that on Bedrock Bedrock Edition, so another missed opportunity there, and two things that I would consider bugs, or at the very least parity issues. There's a very strange bug in 1.19 where going up or down bubble columns will actually deplete your hunger. So as you can see, I have a very tall bubble column, and I just ate a bunch of golden carrots, and now I'm starting to, you know, take some hunger, and it's actually kind of a lot. It appears that it's the same amount as if you were swimming, and this is maybe an unintended side effect of the hunger parity changes that we saw recently. So if you notice that you start starving by going up or down some bubbles, then you're not crazy. You actually are starving, and bubbles are stealing all your food. We got a weird bug with the mangrove propagules. They can be placed on the muddy mangrove roots and the mud, along with all of the other saplings, I'll have you note. And you cannot grow these no matter what you do, no matter how thick the platform is or how big it is. They basically have to be grown on grass blocks, as you can see there. Now, you can grow the flowering azalea, or the regular azalea, or oak, or spruce, or birch, or jungle, or acacia, or dark oak. So you can grow all of the regular trees on the muddy mangrove roots and the mud as well, but you cannot grow the mangrove tree. The one thing that this biome was kind of made for. Seems a bit silly. Definitely a bug that needs to be fixed. We have another very strange mangrove tree issue. So if you are at a negative height and you grow these things, there's a fair chance of getting leaves to spawn right above the tree at around Y0. So if you really spam it, you might get it to happen. It is somewhat rare, but it does happen semi-frequently. You just got to try it a couple times. There we go. This one's got a whole bunch of leaves. As you can see, it grows like the regular tree, and then it grows like a secondary tree up here. So are there any logs in this? Nope, just a whole bunch of leaves. If we could do this in the nether at a negative height, then this would probably be a way of like breaking through the bedrock roof or something. Maybe. Yeah, another issue with the mangrove propagules. If there's any type of leaf above the propagule, then it will not grow up. As you can see here, we got all of the different types of leaves, and it's just impossible for them to grow. There's actually a similar bug with the azalea leaf types, but it's kind of a strange thing. As you can see, even the mangrove leaves will prevent the propagules from growing. And there's another similar bug where the mangrove leaves will prevent all types of saplings from growing as well. As you can see here, you can spam these things, and nothing will grow if there's a mangrove leaf above it. Very strange behavior, and we've seen this bug a couple different times in a few different ways with the azalea bushes and things like that. So this is not a new bug to Bedrock Edition, but it does apply to new items and new mechanics, etc. There's a small oversight for goat ramming. These guys, when they ram a mangrove log, will not drop a goat horn. They should drop a horn whenever they run into any overworld log type or a couple other things that you can find on top of mountains, but this is not included in the overworld logs because, well, they just forgot to do it when they added this wood type. As always, if you ever find any bugs in Bedrock Edition, feel free to send it my way and it might be included in a future video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, then consider dropping a like as it helps out the video and the channel a ton. If you're new here, then maybe consider subscribing to help us reach 500,000. And otherwise, I'll see you guys down in the comment section and in the next one. And then there was silence.